Namaste. Welcome to the 11th video in the overall series and introduction to Sanatana Dharma. In the 10th video, we had touched upon the concept of Nama, name, the divine name rather, and why it is considered to be so powerful. There's a slight reordering that I have done. I will be talking about the concept of Sahasranamam in the next video. In this video, I will talk about two stories, one from Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the other from the Bhagavata Puranam, and then talk about the core topic, what parents should or should not do when they're about to name a child. Again, let me reiterate, this is for those parents who want a meaningful Sanskrit name, or more specifically, a meaningful Sanskrit Hindu name of a god, for example, or what they should do, what they should not do. It is for them. People who don't care about the meaning and all, obviously, they are free to do whatever they want. I'm nobody to lecture them. Let's proceed. By the way, there's a gentleman named Nityananda Mishra. In the references section, I have given a link to his Facebook profile. He is present on Twitter also. I've given a link to his Facebook profile in the references. So the last slide, when I go through my last slide, you will understand why I'm taking this person's name. He's a Sanskrit scholar. In fact, he has also written a book recently called Sunama, where he has taken some very rare names from Hindu texts, and then he has got a book published. The book is named Sunama, not Tsunami, obviously, Sunama or good name. So please don't be caught up by the tsunami of bad names that are available today. This is one reference that is available. Let's proceed to the video. To begin with, let me start with a story that was narrated by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. There is a very nice book that was brought out by the Ramakrishna Mission called The Tales and Parables of Sri Ramakrishna, where Sri Ramakrishna told his disciples a lot of concepts through very small, simple stories. There is a particular story, if I remember correctly, that story is in the section on faith, about how faith can do miracles. At the same time, that story can be extended to talk about the power of Nama. So the story goes like this. There was once a person who approached Vibhishana and told him that, see, I need to cross the sea. You need to help me. Vibhishana wrote something down on a leaf or a paper, leaf, for example, and gave it to this person and said, you believe that this will take you across the sea and you just walk on the water. The person said, okay, he started walking. After some time, this guy suddenly got curious. What did Vibhishana write on this leaf that is so powerful and is allowing me to walk on water like this? He opened that leaf and saw Ramanama on it. He immediately thought, oh, it is just a name. He immediately drowned. Now, one obviously, the point that Sri Ramakrishna wanted to make in this story was about the power of faith. At the same time, obviously, had Vibhishana written his own name, sister Surpanaka's name, his brother Ravana's name, it would not have helped, obviously, right? So this is an example of the power of Nama that Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa narrated as a story. Now, let us come to an interesting story from the Bhagavata Puranam, the story of Ajamila. The story is generally referred to as Ajamila Upakhyanam, or the story of Ajamila. Now, there are slight variants of the spelling Ajamila, Ajamila, Ajamila. There could be certain variants. This is the version I'm using right now is Ajamila. So Ajamila Upakhyanam. Let's get into the story. There was a person named Ajamila, obviously. He used to gamble. He was a cheat. He used to resort to theft also to support himself and his family. He lived with a prostitute. Obviously not a person somebody would call an epitome of piety, right? Now, this person, when on his deathbed, saw his son. Now, his youngest son was named Narayana. On his deathbed, Ajamila saw his child playing a certain distance away and affectionately or in pain or whatever called out to him. Remember, he was not thinking about a Narayana as the divine Narayana, but he was just calling out Narayana because that was the name of his son. At that point of time, Yamadutas, Yama's messengers, the god of death Yama, his messengers had come to collect this person's soul to drag it off to hell. When he took Narayana's name, Ajamila was able to see Vishnu Parshadas or Vishnu's messengers, Vishnu's followers arrive at that particular scene. there was a conversation or discussion which happened between these two groups, which Ajamila saw. Basically, these guys, the Vishnu Parshadas, stopped Yama's messengers from taking this person's soul away. Now, Vishnu's messengers asked them that why are you taking this person away, or what did this person do? The Yamadutas narrated his life of sin and said, "See, this is the reason this person deserves to go to hell." However, the Vishnu's messenger said, "See, at the time of his death, on his deathbed, he actually took uh, Narayana's name, and this is sufficient to avert his fate." Now, please note one thing. Again, let me reiterate. He did not take the name as that of a god. He just took the nama. That's it. He just uttered it. Now, let's see the background of this person's life. The person was a Brahmana. He was the son of a learned Brahmana, very pious parents. In fact, Ajamila himself was very pious in his youth. He led a very spiritual, very pious life. He had a devoted, pious wife. One day, what happened was he stepped out to collect some items for his puja rituals, his daily rites. At that point of time, he saw a prostitute with her patron in a compromising position. He heard something, he heard some sounds, he saw what was happening, and he was smitten with that prostitute. He later on went to her and said, "See, I am completely in love with you. I want to live with you." She was shocked. She said, "See, I'm a prostitute. You are a learned person. You lead a very pious life. This is not done. This is not something you should do." He would not take no for an answer. He convinced her and he moved in with her. He let go of his pious wife, his pious life, everything, his life of spirituality, of good deeds, everything, and became the aforementioned gambler, cheat, thief. He got a lot of children through that prostitute. The youngest one who was named Narayana, and it was Narayana's name, that youngest child's name, that he took at the time of death. Now, at this juncture, he on his deathbed, when he took Narayana's name, and when Vishnu Parshada stopped Yama's messengers from carrying him away, he did not die. He came back to life. He did not attain mukti. He did not go to heaven. He did not attain Narayana mukti. Nothing. He just came back to life. Then he realized. So, because obviously in his life he had heard about these things, that there is something called heaven, hell, mukti, Narayana, Yama, all these concepts he had heard. At that point of time, he actually experienced everything. So, realization, he actually saw what was the truth. He gave up his life of sin, went back to a life of piety, and at the end of his life, attained mukti. Now, a couple of points. This is the story of Ajamila, which explains the power of a nama. Now, a couple of important points that we need to take away from the story. Point number one: people may think, I will live a life of whatever, debauchery, happiness, whatever it is. I will live life king size the way I want. I will just ensure that on my deathbed, I will take God's name. First of all, nobody knows when he or she is going to die. Point number one. Two, to take a very bad example, remember that concept of Pavlov's dog and conditioning, right? Unless the person is conditioned his or her entire life to think about a nama, to take a nama, that will not come on the deathbed. This is the reason, this is a very, very important reason, or this is the reason why elders asked their kids to name their son or daughter after a god. Because when I call my daughter or when I call my son, I actually take God's name and I'm actually chanting a nama. Also, earlier in older days, in fact, people might still do that. When people fell down or when people sneezed or if they were in any kind of pain, they were taught to take a nama. All of this is conditioning to ensure that at the time of death, which is a significant event, obviously, in many ways, not a very pleasant time, obviously, the person would be able to take a nama and attain Sadgati. This is the reason why it is extremely important to give a good name to a child. Also, please understand, just by taking Narayana's name, Ajamila did not attain mukti. He simply did not die. So mukti is not something which is so simple. It has to be earned. We have to struggle, fight for it. We have to work. We have to deserve it. At the same time, another important point, there is also this concept in the world that I will do whatever I want. I will go somewhere. I will confess. I am absolved of all sins. I will attain heaven. Things don't work like that. Karma doesn't work like that. We are held responsible for what we do. Uh, Now, there are things I may still do knowing that something is wrong. I am in an even worse scenario in that case. However, knowingly, unknowingly, whichever way, if I do something, I will face consequences. Whether the example that is taken in Shastras is whether you touch fire out of affection, hate, love, whatever it is, it will burn. That is the nature of fire. That way, if I do something, I am responsible for that. I will be held accountable for whatever I have done. So these are some very important concepts that we need to remember. And please understand that this is the reason why naming a child properly is extremely important. Now, for new parents, again, let me reiterate, this slide is meant for those parents who want a proper Sanskrit name, a good name for their child. I am nobody to lecture others who do not fall under this category, but this is advice, if I can say that, for those people who want a good Sanskrit name for their child. If you are expecting parents or you are looking to name a child, please don't go by naming websites. Some of those names are meaningless. Some of them are not even Sanskrit. Some of them have weird, opposite, extreme meanings. Okay. Uh, please don't go by naming websites. Even if you look at a naming website, please ensure you approach a Sanskrit scholar. At least look at a Sanskrit dictionary. Go through a Sahasranamam. We have so many Vedic Sahasranamam, not whatever I feel that, okay, I worship somebody who's a modern god or somebody, and I have decided to write a Sahasranama. Please, not like that. Vedic deities, there are Sahasranamams that are available, that have been handed down over generations. Please approach a scholar. Please at least look at a Sanskrit dictionary, refer to a Sahasranamam. There are so many wonderful, wonderful names that are available. Please don't depend upon naming websites. And if you realize that you already have a wrong name, the child has been named in a wrong way, there must surely be some prayaschitta. There might be a namakarana ceremony needed again. I am no scholar. Please approach a Vedic scholar, a priest, and find out what can be done to remedy that. This basically, so in these two videos, I hope I was able to convey in a little way the importance or the power of a nama and why it is important to name a child properly, to give a proper name. In the next video, I will be touching upon the concept of Sahasranamam. What is it? And a few more points about the Sahasranamam in general. Thank you for watching this video. Namaste.